Hello, my name is Ted Holsey. I'm Vice President of Marketing at eFolder and your host for today's event. Welcome to the eFolder Partner Chat webinar. This webinar series brings together leaders from eFolder's partner community for advice and best practices on how to grow and thrive. Today's topic is tornado season, how one Midwest partner bounced back from the Joplin tornado with BDR. Today we are joined by John Motazedi, CEO of SNC Squared. In just a moment, I will further introduce John. Before we go through the agenda, let's cover a few housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. The recorded version of the webinar will be available on eFolder's YouTube channel shortly after the event. We will also make copies of the slides available to those that attended the event. With over 100 people registered for today's session, we have put all participants in listen-only mode. You can enjoy the audio portion of today's event by either streaming it to your computer or dialing in over the phone. Questions are strongly encouraged throughout. We have planned a special Q&A section at the end of today's discussion, but you may submit as we go along, and we will try to address the questions on the fly. John is going to first share with you his remarkable story of surviving the devastating Joplin tornado, which struck in May 2011. He will then share the lessons learned both for his business and for his clients. And then he will talk about how he's successfully growing his company by helping new clients implement business continuity. Now let me introduce our guest. John Motazedi is a leading expert in disaster recovery and has been recognized by Fox Business, NPR, CRN, and Missouri Health Information Technology for his expertise in swift response during the tornado in May 2011 in Joplin, Missouri. John started his company, SNC Squared, in 2006 and has been a leading force in helping companies in the tri-state area develop their disaster recovery plans and help them reorganize their business processes in order to be more profitable. Before John started his company, he worked for J.B. Hunt, CHI, and Mercy Hospitals as a lead system engineer. John also worked at IBM on application and product development designing new computer operating systems. John's yearly Pink Mousepad campaign benefits local area breast cancer organizations such as Hope for You and Breast Cancer Foundation of the Ozarks. John and his lovely wife, Renee, have 3 kids, William, Elizabeth, and Philip. John enjoys spending his free time with his family doing outdoor activities, including leading the Boy Scouts on their wildlife adventures. John, take it away.
Well, thank you. Hello, it's wonderful to be here. I just want to kind of go through and first of all, thank our host for letting us have this discussion. I think this is very valid and very important, and I hope to do you guys some justice today with some of the stuff that we've actually done and have been privileged to be a part of. So I'll start just really quickly. Oops, pardon me. So in summary, we in May 22nd, we had a small little tornado go through, is what our story is. We had a EF5 tornado, was actually went through Joplin. We had about 20 minutes of warning. It was very odd. I got up that morning, and so funny you mentioned that we were at the Scouts. We were at the Scouts, and the forecast for today was we were expecting some thunderstorms later on in the day. So we were rushing to get home to ensure that everything was going to be, to get out of the rain, etc. So we got home, and just shortly thereafter, we had this tornado go through. You've seen the details on TV, I'm sure, but it was what they call a multi-vortex tornado, which means this tornado was about 1 mile wide, and then within this tornado, there were multiple other tornadoes spinning, almost what I would call like a washing machine, all throughout, just pretty much wreaking havoc across the city. Ground speeds were clocked at about 200+ miles an hour. Some of the air flight controls that were on top of the hospital for the hospital helicopters, etc., clocked. Actually, they got blown off of the hospital at over 300. And a good portion, about 30% of the city, was completely destroyed. 8,000 structures. We had about 162 confirmed deaths and just thousands of injuries. That being said, let me proceed. So this basically gives you a scale of how the tornado evolved. The full path of the tornado was actually 22 miles long. There was an initial stretch of 7 miles, which is inside the city. It actually cuts the city in half. It separated the north and the south side of the city. and you can actually see where the strength of the tornado was. For those watching, my office was located where the second 5 is. So that's where it was an EF5. My office was located right there. That's where we got the full bulk of the storm. That's what actually devastated our office. And we had clear devastation all the way through the entire section of the city, but that was where the hospital was. That was where most of the death and the damage was, from that first 4 through the first 3 I see that you see in the red. That being said, what we tried to do is actually put in kind of a scale replica of what would happen if we actually took that destruction path and actually projected it on some cities that we all know, something like Dallas or Manhattan, to give you a sense of how big the scale of this would be if you put it on something that you're familiar with. Obviously, Joplin, being in southwest Missouri, is not as fairly known and popular what the scale of this destruction was, but this gives a good impression of how the path of the tornado was. Everything within the red mark was where it was completely destroyed. So it was a very distinct line between complete destructions and buildings that are still standing, but this is a good example of how things proceeded. So this is my office. This is what we walked up to when we first made it there. There on the right-hand side, you can see some, and I don't know if you can see the mouse, but there's some white stuff. This is my server room, actually, on the right-hand side of the picture. As you notice, there's not a whole lot there. We are a managed service company, obviously. We were managing around 1,000 machines. The interesting thing is all of our vertical is medical, so we have a lot of doctors and doctors' offices, and they are all in the same area as we are, since we were pretty close to the St. John's Hospital that got hit. Of course, on Monday morning, we had lost 467 of the 1,000 machines that we regularly manage. That means they either had no office, no computer, no combination of both, or it was completely destroyed beyond recognition. Again, most of our clients, this is what we walked up to. So we were very, very blessed because none of our techs were injured, none of our family was injured, we were all good. We actually, the initial few hours of the tornado or after the tornado, we basically were helping recover bodies and, you know, assisting the local emergency crews, you know, with support, etc. So that was our initial assessment to the community. So obviously everything is gone. Now we have to actually have some sort of a plan. The interesting thing was we've always had a plan, so we had to come up with some goals. What was our goal on getting our business back up and running? The first thing that I saw when I saw my business wasn't, oh my goodness, you know, I'm destroyed, was, hey, you know, I hope my backups are good. I say that tongue in cheek because we always knew our backups were good because we always check those backups every day. So our goal was to actually have the business up by Monday, 5/23, and the real goal is you cannot serve your clients, you cannot serve your customers unless you are up and running 100% yourself. And then our additional goal was, out of those 467 computers, aka servers and workstations, to have all of their servers up and running for all the clients that were affected by 5/27, which was the following Friday. That would have given us 5 days. Our other goals were no clients would lose their business due to any IT issues, so that means we needed to ensure that they could do all their billing, their payroll, all their accounting, all their insurance claims. Everything has to actually occur, and everything has to be as seamless as possible, even though they had nowhere to work out of. And then we only lost half of our clients. The other half that we did not lose, they expected business as usual, so we had to make sure that they were actually being, you know, still being serviced as if nothing had been affected. So what did we do? We had ourselves up and running in 5 hours, and then we had all of our clients up and running by Thursday. So we actually beat our own deadline by 24 hours, and we basically we went from destruction to production in 72 hours. And that's how we achieved that. Let me get to here. So basically, why did we succeed? And the real key in the whole realm of this is you have to have some sort of a plan in place. You have to have a backup and disaster plan in place. You have to check your backups, you have to make sure what you're providing to your clients, what you're providing to yourself, is truly what you say. So when we tell our clients we're checking your backups, we're monitoring your servers, we're doing this, we're doing that, we actually did those. We check the servers daily, weekly, monthly. We do the test restores, etc. So what does that gain us? Well, we saved 350,000 patient records and in 20 offices. What was the absolute key important thing when you have a natural disaster of that magnitude in a city as such? Every patient needs their records because they lost their houses, they lost their prescriptions, they lost, everything they would have had. And it would have been a real tragedy if they would have called their doctor and the doctor said, well, not only do I can't get your script for you, I don't even know who you are, or I don't even know what you had. So that was really the key, is every single patient record was recovered. Every single patient record was recovered within the time frame we had actually established. And then millions of dollars. I mean, all the AR, the insurance claims, the payrolls, everything else that is significant to the daily operations and the cash flows of our partners, of our business clients, all of that stuff remained intact and everything was working. The interesting thing was we did a lot of this stuff even though the people didn't have an office to work out of. So we had their servers up in the cloud, we had their servers up at a disaster recovery location that we had, yet they were working out of McDonald's or they were working out of their cousin's house, etc. And we were able to actually deliver all of this stuff in the 72 hours, as I mentioned. So I guess the big question comes in is, what is your disaster plan? And really the key things you have to remember is you have got to get yourself up and running as quickly as possible. So you have to have a disaster plan. And then furthermore, you have to have a, you can't say, I wish I would have done this, or I should have done that, or the woulda, coulda, shoulda, none of that stuff actually really works. Everyone will have some sort of disaster. It might not be to the magnitude of what you would see in Joplin, but everyone could be it could be employee theft, it could be a fire, it could be just a number of things. And you have to plan for it, and if you're not planning for it, then obviously there's other problems. And then you have to ask for help. There was no way that we could have done what we did in the time frame we did without help from our partners, without help from our other IT companies that stepped up and assisted us. So when I called within that first few hours and I said, hey, my office is destroyed, can some of you guys help me? Everybody said yes, and not only that, many of them actually jump in the car, load up their vehicles with food and supplies and tools, etc., and actually headed our way to assist us. So we try to focus on backups different than business continuity. When I have discussions with my clients, I don't talk about backups because backups is just a very, instant now kind of a thing. Let me explain how we differentiate between backups and business continuity. Backups worries about how is your data yesterday? What did you do yesterday? When is the next backup going to run? Business continuity is what's going to happen 6 months down the line. Can you continue a year down the line, etc. Backups are file and folder based. Business continuity worries about systems and servers and processes. Backups, again, have a limited snapshot of your business. Continuous snapshot of your business is what business continuity is. How did I look? How will I look? What's coming down the pipe? Backups, again, usually local recovery. Business continuity, can you take your business anywhere and continue your business the way it is? Again, backups care just about the machine, whereas business continuity cares about the business. So this is the discussion we have with our clients on what differentiates SNC Squared from all other of our competitors. Everyone talks about backup. I worry about how your business is going to run with or without backups. That's what I am the main key here. So kind of the stuff we were looking for, we were actually looking for, I guess if you want to call it the wish list. We wanted a business continuity that does everything. So we want files, we want folders, we want to have it, come up rather quickly in just, minutes. We can't wait for days to recover servers. It has to be granular, which means I have got to get things as quickly and as often as possible. So we wanted something that backups often, as quickly as every 15 minutes. We wanted, obviously, to have redundancy offsite. It had to be simple. It had to be encrypted. Basically, we had to do everything we tell our clients we were going to do and make sure that our tails were covered. And at the bottom line is it has to be something that they can afford. So we have our own branded version of our backup services and continuity services. We call it the Backup Guardian. We back up servers every 15 minutes. We send backup servers within 15 to 30 minutes of the occurrence. This is very interesting because we actually had the tornado hit at 5:41 p.m. We started the backup at a client site at 5:30 p.m., which was 11 minutes before the tornado. The backup happened. It went off site, and just a few minutes after the backup went off site, the place was completely destroyed. It took us 2 weeks to actually find that server, and when we found it, it was completely shredded to pieces. It was under debris. So that is true testament that literally we recovered them as of 2 minutes before the tornado hit, and that's fantastic. We like to keep multiple copies, so we keep, obviously, you always have a copy on your own server, which is the live running copy. We have a copy on the backup system itself, and then we actually keep a couple of copies off-site. So at any given time, I have 4 copies of your backup at different stages, but we try to keep, we believe, kind of belt and suspenders all the way. I got to have multiple backups for everything. Obviously, everything is backed up. We also wanted to make sure we meet, since we are medical offices and healthcare, everything had to meet HIPAA. Absolutely, that was essential. And then, we wanted, I don't want to just do backups forever and ever. I want to actually be able to kind of combine these, backups that I do every 15 minutes, my 95 backups a day, into dailies, weeklies, and monthlies. So all of these became an absolute key. And the absolute important one of all of them is to actually be able to do test restores simply and to be able to do that on a monthly basis. So advantages, obviously it gives me backups so I can actually restore your files that have been destroyed within a 15-minute granularity, and then I can actually recover your servers, and we can actually spin up your servers and get them virtualized in a very short amount of time. Flexibility, this is one thing that was very beneficial to us when we had servers fail and we had the servers, completely destroyed in the tornado. I might not be able to find the same brand and type of server. At some point, we just basically got the next thing that was available from some of our partners, HP or Dell, and we just had to restore it to their servers based on what was available next. And we had some folks that chose not to necessarily go to a server, and we actually hosted them in a cloud for a few weeks until they actually could get their head around what was happening and how their insurance was going to pay for everything, et cetera. And then, again, it goes back after 2 or 3 weeks after people got their equipment back in place. We had to be able to actually get everything back on their equipment and then offboard them off of the cloud solutions, off of some of our servers that we were actually providing for them, and get them back up and running after this disaster had happened. So, again, our goal was to get them done in a week. We got them all up in 72 hours. Let me move on here.
So, John, before we kind of go ahead, I just want to remind everybody, go ahead and ask questions using the Q&A feature in, let's see here. Let me go ahead and use the Q&A feature. Let's see here. Let me go back into slide mode. Okay, John. Go ahead and submit questions as we go along, and I'm monitoring the Q&A log, and we'll, pepper John with questions as we go along. But John, let me just ask one question that just came through. Kind of, what was your biggest surprise in terms of managing this recovery process? What was the thing that surprised you the most and you didn't anticipate?
Well, it's interesting. When you have a disaster like this, you have good and bad come out of everything. So the good thing, and I'll touch base on a couple of points. The good thing was that we really saw the outpour of help. That was absolutely fantastic. And the bad thing was we also saw the some things that was probably not proper, for people doing stuff that they shouldn't have been doing. There was some looting, etc. But the thing that was really, really surprising to me is the sheer chaos. I mean, we always think about everything as chaotic whenever you go through a disaster. But the sheer chaos of how many decisions as a CEO of a company I have to make in case of a disaster. Literally, what was important now was insignificant 15 minutes from now. What was a disaster, or what was happening right now in front of your face, what was the fire right now, was changing on the fly. And it was absolutely exhausting. But it was interesting. We were putting 20-hour days in for the first 6 weeks, and the sheer adrenaline of just to keep on going and making it all come together was phenomenal, how surprising we were. Something that completely blew me away. We had our ConnectWise up, so we were still issuing tickets to all our customers that are not working, all the customers that were working. Our redo ticket list, this is surprise. We usually have, a few percentage points of redo tickets. That's just normal. We had practically no redo tickets for the first 6 weeks after the tornado. It was odd. It was like the entire team was focused together in a way that they knew what was supposed to be done. They were there to strategically get it done and move out. That was absolutely phenomenal. And then the thing, I don't really call this a surprise because we were watching it every day, but everything worked the way we wanted it to. All the backups worked. All the restores worked. We got all the clients up. The shock to me was it took us as little time as it did. And I often tell people, if I just had more engineers, we had so many things go wrong that it took us 72 hours to get it all up and running. If I had 10 more engineers, we could have probably got it all in 36 hours. And that was really the challenge, is everything worked. We just didn't have enough manpower to actually get it running. We just couldn't get to it because there were so many things going on and so many people that were down and completely destroyed.
Joe, can you talk a little bit about the software assets and vendor relationships that you had in place when the disaster struck? So, what were you using for RMM? What were you using for PSA?
Sure.
What various backup vendor solutions did you have in place that helped you recover?
Sure. So, yeah, we actually use ConnectWise across the board. We also use that in conjunction with LabTech. And then for our backup systems, for all of our BDR, we actually use eFolder. We have used Intronis. We got some Zenith here and there, and we have a few straggling Datos around. So we have a mix. So we have a good, I've tried a good portion of everything that's in the market. My responsibility, or I guess what I called my vendors after this disaster, was basically I called them up and say, oh, guess what? We just had a disaster, and I'm declaring a disaster. And really the interesting thing is how you really know how well your vendors are going to respond to you by when they hear that word. And when they say, sure, what do you need? I'm walking into the airport, and I'm going to buy a plane ticket or whatever, the next flight out to Joplin, I'm actually going to deliver equipment for you. That's what you want to hear. You don't want to hear, well, we don't know what we're supposed to do right now. I guess you guys are covered. Those are the things you don't want to hear. So we had really good luck with all of our partners, and we had some interesting stuff. We had always had great relationships with our partners, but we had never really invested in getting a line of credit as we would usually have in business. I mean, we were purchasing stuff, et cetera, but nothing, we'd never really pushed the line of credit. It was interesting because I called my partners and I said, hey, I need a line of credit. I need you to give me the most amount of money that you can probably provide me with a line of credit. And oh, by the way, I don't have a fax line. I don't have an office. I can't sign anything. And oops, you just got dropped off of my cell phone, and so I have to call them back again. So I can't do anything that you would regularly want me to do for a partner to get a line of credit, but trust me, just do it. And it was interesting how those folks stepped up to the plate and just said, okay, we're going to give you $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever they gave us. Some of them just shipped us the hardware and said, we'll just worry about it afterwards. If you don't need it after 30 days, just ship it back and we won't charge you anything. So that's the commitment we got from our vendors, which was absolutely key in having us recover.
Well, I mean, so a lot of good news in terms of the strength of your partnerships you had with several vendors and distributors and that sort of thing. But, is there a lesson learned there in terms of, just financial planning and disaster planning in terms of having adequate financial resources lined up, especially, lines of credit that you may or may not want to tap into, but you
Sure.
want there as an emergency?
Correct. And that goes to the whole plan of you have to have a plan. Wishing and hoping, is not the same. So the things we did after the fact, we had what I consider was good insurance, and we had actually met with our insurance person, but we ran into some issues that we had not really thought about before. And while my insurance agent said, hey, yeah, you're covered, these are things that came up that were odd. Let me give you an example. At any given time, we might have a half a dozen machines in my office that belong to my clients. Well, we didn't always have an inventory of what's in the office. Do you know exactly what serial number and what machine is in your office at this instant in time and who it belongs to? Do you know what pieces of software have you ordered for them that have come to your office? Do you know parts? We had, ordered some Dell hard drives that were coming in for a warranty exchange. Well, we never found those. But it was interesting. They called us in 30 days and said, oh, by the way, those drives are due, otherwise I'm going to bill you for it. Well, those drives are sitting in the landfill somewhere, or they're sitting in the next city. So those were the challenges. Or if we, brought in equipment that was for a client which had been built for, but it had not yet been delivered. So we were setting up a server in offices, and it got completely destroyed. Well, who pays for that? And why I bring that up is, a lot of people might say, well, I think the client should, or I think I should. Those are the things that you really have to nail down now, because when you have a disaster like that, we don't know, and you won't know what it is until you, start processing a claim.
Great. So a couple questions just came in. Ashley wants to know, and I think these are some of the good questions to address right now, kind of before we go through how SNC Squared packages your solution. But I mean,
Sure.
How do you get potential clients to understand these risks and recognize the risks? Okay.
So the discussion we have is we sell, we do two things. Part of what differentiates SNC Squared is we don't just go in with one solution. We don't go in and just sell you backups. As a matter of fact, we try to avoid just point solutions. We try to avoid, I'm just selling you a backup, or I'm just selling you a server. Our long-term commitment is to basically forego short-term cash or for short-term gains for all long-term benefit. So we try to bring, when I talk to a CEO of a company, I'm not talking to them, oh, you need a backup, and you need some sort of anti-spam, and you need archiving, all this stuff, and a firewall, et cetera. We talk to them on what is your business continuity, what does your business need to run on a day-to-day basis. This is the whole solution, and what we usually present to them is just one price. This will do everything you asked for, including hardware, software, etc. So that's usually the way we discuss it. I broke it down to the slide that's on the screen because we have a few stragglers out there, and they always ask us, well, how much does your backups cost? And ultimately everybody wants to know how much it costs. And what I tell them is, while this is just a number on the page, this is not what we sell. I don't just sell you Backup Guardian. I sell you the whole solution, soup to nuts, all the way through.
Now, in your market, have you found it's been easier? I mean, I guess a natural question is, after this tragedy in this market, has it been easier to convince clients to invest in the appropriate amount of business continuity after the disaster?
Yes and no. Let me explain. So we were marketing all year long on why we are better than everybody else. And it wasn't really until the tornado hit that people realized that, hey, my trunk slammer IT guy that's also my cousin and my nephew, doesn't quite do the same thing as SNC Squared. He can't deliver the same services as us. We had always been communicating to all of our potential prospects, everyone in Joplin that we consider a potential prospect, on why we're better, what solutions we have, why we're better than your standard people just, guy working out of his garage or his basement. So the message was always there. what the tornado did is actually drive home the message to those people that what they had was not adequate. They thought they had a solution that was functional. They never just questioned the solution. The tornado drove them to question the solution. So once they started questioning the solution, then we started getting the clients. And it was interesting because we were then getting clients that we had always marketed to. So now suddenly the light bulb went on because they got a tornado. Now they're coming to us by the drone, not necessarily because we're just going out and selling backup solutions to them, and we've been doing that forever. Suddenly they understood what the difference between a backup and a continuity of business is. That being said, we gained a lot of new clients from that perspective. That being said, we also had some clients that I literally preached to the guy 2 weeks before the storm that I said, hey, I'm going to put a server in here for you. We'll do all the backups for you. You can try it for 30 days. This was 2 weeks before the storm. You can try it for 30 days. If you don't like it, I'll pull it out and you owe me nothing. And he said no. His office was completely destroyed, including the server he was running his business on, and he's a lawyer. So that was all of his records and everything. He actually sent the data off-site and recovered it. He spent thousands of dollars on recovering his data back, calls me up and says, hey, my office was destroyed. I've moved to a new office. Can you give me a quote for a new server? And I said, okay. So I went over to his office, and I said, here's the quote for the server, and how about a backup solution? He said, and this is the thing that completely blows me away, he said, no, that situation will never happen again. We don't want a backup solution.
That's one tough client.
Yeah. So they're no longer our client. Okay. And again, the whole thing is, how can I help you if you don't want to help yourself? So
how have you been able to tell, I mean, how important, another question that Brian asks is, how important are case studies that highlight, you know, what you guys were able to accomplish and achieve for your clients who did invest in the right solutions that you recommended before the disaster?
We use case studies for some of our web marketing, such as white papers, et cetera. And the thing what we're trying to do is actually really get the message out. You know, everybody, the thing that was very unique to me is right after the storm, everyone in the local magazines had, oh, we do backups. They had never been marketing before that, you know, in any sort of a print or news or TV or radio that they did anything in backups. But as soon as the storm hits, everybody and their brother is now pushing their own version of backup solution. But again, everybody is talking backups. So what we use case studies are to actually educate the client. They don't know the difference between a backup and a business continuity. That's the discussion. That's the discussion we want to have with our future clients. And that's really what differentiates you. If you're talking about just backup solution A versus solution B, it's very simple to go in there and say, oh, I can use Carbonite for $20 a year, or I can use Mosey. And they don't understand what the difference between something like a Mosey and the Carbonite is versus something as, you know, like an eFolder, or in our case, SNC Squared's Backup Guardian. That's the discussion we use, you know, white pages and case studies to actually try to educate the future clients on why they need what we provide versus, you know, something like Carbonite.
The speed of recovery, so it's all about kind of speed and completeness of recovery. And Jeff wants to know, you know, how did the clients who you did have up and running by Thursday, I mean, how did they react? Were they surprised, or I mean,
they were shocked? They were absolutely floored. They thought, when we first discussed it, I mean, so our initial goal was SNC Squared has to be up and running 100%, no questions asked by Monday, which was no big deal. We got that. We actually had that working. Then we called them and reached out to them and say, okay, what do you got down the line? This is where we are expecting you to bring you up. We actually had already drawn a timeline on client A between this time and this time, client B this time, et cetera, down the pipe. We started from the most significant clients, which were the cancer treatment centers, pediatrics, general family practice, all of the clients that actually have either elderly patients, children, patients that need immediate treatment like chemotherapy, you know, drug management, etc. So those were the absolute prioritized the clients on what was the key clients we had to bring up. And then we call them up and say, hey, client X, Mr. Smith, we're expecting to have you up by Wednesday at noon. Is this okay? Or, do you know something that I don't know that I need to change you in the schedule? And it was funny, in one case, they couldn't believe that we were talking about the Wednesday that was tomorrow Wednesday, not like Wednesday 2-3 weeks from now Wednesday. So when you have those discussions with your clients, they're just, every single one of them, thank you, I can't believe it, this is so awesome, you guys are worth it, because we told them what we were going to do and we did it. And that was basically it.
Great. Fantastic. So why don't we, I just want to remind everybody, keep the questions coming, but why don't we kind of tackle, how you package your standard offering and then some additional sales and marketing best practices and tips and lessons learned.
Sure. So the way we usually pack, and obviously every site is different, so this is our official published rates, and we do special pricing for more than one server, et cetera. But just the plain old core of it is, if you just want to buy this and have no relationship with me other than just what your offsite fees are, I charge you $2,000 for the server, and then a license, a monthly fee for the server licenses, and then just $1.50 a gig offsite. And if you add more servers, obviously your prices will change. They'll go down, and if you add more gig past a certain point, your prices will go down. So at the bottom level, we're charging right around $1 a gig, and at the top end is about $1.50. So that's if you just decided to just purchase this right by yourself. Second option is we basically give you a lot of it. So in the real core of it, we have a setup fee that we talk about a lot, and again, depends on what the client signs up for. We charge a $1,000 upfront fee. That takes care of all of our laborers, ordering the equipment, all this stuff. And then what I basically tell them is we're going to back up your servers for $300 a month. And with that includes the licenses, the software, the offsite fee, all the local, unlimited local. We will manage it. We will check the backups. We'll check the restores. We will check it all for you for $300 a month. And oh, by the way, that includes 150 gig per server. And if you got 3 servers all in one place, it's not 150 gig each. We'll just take all the 150s and add them and give you 450. So now you get a ½ terabyte of space, and we just charge you a monthly fee. We additionally do the checks for them, so we actually make sure that their backups are done every day. We actually 100% audit every BDR device and every backup system in our office every day. Even though we get the green lights and everything looks okay, we still 100% check everything every day. That's just a part of what we do. And let's see, I can't remember. Do I have a slide after this one also? Sorry, here. Just trying to. Okay. So how do we do our stuff? So we've long ago realized that we don't know everything about everyone. So what we do is we actually pick a vertical, and we go as deep as we can in it. So in our case, healthcare and services. Healthcare primarily is our absolute essential vertical. We have more physicians' offices and doctors' offices and healthcare clinics than anyone else in this area. And that's really the key, is we know what they want, we know what we can deliver for them, and we know what their hot buttons are. So we position ourselves as the local expert. We know all about electronic medical records. We know all about, their billing, their patient flow, their data flow, who gets billed why, how the reimbursement happens. So we become we know their business just as well as theirs, and in many cases, if they're just new doctors on the field, we even give them some advice on, hey, you need to get one of these and have one of these in place. So that's how we do it. We also do lots of education, and education is really the key. You can't make someone want what you have if they don't know anything about it. And for them to really understand what differentiates you is you have to differentiate. You have to teach them, again, what the difference is between a BDR or a backup and what the difference is between a business continuity. So we have tons of emails, tons of campaigns, newsletters. Our goal is to actually educate the users, the potential clients, on the what's, the how's, the who's, and really what makes us different. We do a lot of joint venture campaigns with a lot of our local partners. They basically do what we do, just in a different, like they might do security systems or they might be accountants. So basically that's how we actually kind of market some of our stuff.
So can you talk a little bit, I know you've been really busy with going out to chamber meetings and that sort of thing. Can you talk a little bit about the kind of the business results you've seen from being an expert and sharing your experience?
So last year in May, my business was completely gone. We lost half of our clients. Out of the half that were destroyed completely, 20% of them decided that they're not going to open back up because they were older and they decided to just take the insurance check and run. So our immediate monthly recurring revenue dropped significantly because all of these people decided not to honor their contracts, or they decided, hey, I'm going to just back out of my contract and I don't want to do anything like that. Despite all of that, including all the losses, we actually doubled our revenue in 2011. And that was really the key to what we said and the new clients we actually got and how we actually delivered all the message to our clients.
So you had a really good story to tell. You were focused. You had for the businesses, of course, that were covered completely. You had a very loyal base of clients who could share that story. Was there anything you did new on the sales and marketing front in the intervening year? Just because of the tragedy and because of the disaster?
Well, we changed the message a little bit. The biggest thing that I didn't want to do is not go out there after the tornado and say, hey, we told you so. So we had to be very, we had to deliver that message with gloves on, I guess, if you want to say that. We have to be very conscious of the disaster that actually happened, and since we were in it, even though we were a victim ourselves, we had to just make sure we get the message out there, that you still need backups despite of the city completely gone, et cetera. So we approached it in a couple different ways. Well, our biggest thing that actually worked really well is we reached out to the local chamber and we said, hey, we're up, all of our clients are up. We know of other companies that are down, other companies that are not functioning properly, and we're extending, I guess, our hand out. Even if you have some other company that's our competitor as your current IT solution provider, we are here to help you. We will not take away the clients from them. We are not here to steal the clients. We will assist them in any which way possible. We actually reached out to our competitors that actually also got destroyed. It took them almost 10 days to get back up online and running. And on Friday, which was the day after we got all our clients back up, I reached out to him and I said, hey, I know you're down. Do you need any servers? Can I help you? And that was really the key, is we were genuine about what we said. We'd always said it. We just didn't start saying it because the tornado occurred. We just kept with the message. Our goal was to send out newsletters, campaigns, everything at least once a week. We're making some sort of a connection with our potential clients at least every week, and ours was just to continue doing what we always did.
Now, and just from a marketing best practices perspective, you are somebody who follows Robbins very closely and does subscribe to her programs. Is that true?
Correct. That is absolutely correct. One thing I did about 3 years ago, I was just a tech, and that's what a lot of folks don't understand. A lot of us are starting just being a technician, and we want to slowly get in business. I've never run a business before in my life. And the interesting thing was when I saw Robin and I ran into her in, I think it was in Washington. It was a life changer. She was saying the stuff that I needed to hear that I just didn't know who to ask or how to find it. So again, I mean, I know this is an eFolder meeting, but one thing that I think is absolutely essential, if you have not had a group that you can be accountable for, if you don't have a group that actually can help you with some of your marketing, if you don't have people that can teach you how to do some of this stuff, you're just basically sailing in the wind. And you have to come up with some solution. You have to either take time to do it yourself, or you can actually pay someone that's already done it and actually learn from it, and move on. And that's what I did. I don't want to do the same mistakes as everybody else has had. I want to be smart about how my business grows. Therefore, these people, that was really the important thing. So.
And having a group of peers, though, who, I mean, that's one of the things that I've been pretty impressed with the Robbins approach. I mean, not only does she provide people who subscribe to her program, with the templates and the kits and that sort of thing, but she provides you a group of other peers where you've got to check in weekly and say, okay, well, this is the progress we made on our marketing plan in the intervening week. And, nobody likes to show up unprepared, right? So you got to get your homework done. You got to be accountable. You got to show the progress you're making. So.
Correct. So, yeah, last year in 2011, in January, I said, I'm going to do 52 marketing campaigns in 1 year. People thought I was nuts. I was going to send out at least a newsletter or a letter or some sort of a sales product or some sort of a marketing touch every week for the entire year. And my accountability group held me accountable to that. They basically were checking, well, how many have you done this month? What's coming down next month? What are you going to do? How's the message different? And while you can say, oh, I couldn't get to it because I was busy, you can't use that excuse week after week after week. At the end of it, you are accountable to them, and they will hold you accountable.
Exactly. So let's do this. I want to encourage everybody on the call to keep asking questions. Just want to make a couple comments. When we talk about the solution that John just shared with you, I mean, in terms of the standard offering that allows SNC Squared to deliver business continuity to their clients, what's working behind the scenes is John's relationship with eFolder and our Shadow Protect BDR solution. So if you're not familiar with the way this solution works, the standard offering, and there's several different deployment scenarios, but let me just spend a minute or two describing a standard deployment offering. Now, the folks on the phone, some of you are existing eFolder partners. Some of you may be new to eFolder. Some of you may be using one or two of eFolder's services, but maybe not our BDR. So this is really for the benefit of those folks. But eFolder BDR, the way it works is, we have a partnership with StorageCraft, and we leverage StorageCraft Shadow Protect software, and that produces full images of the production servers. Okay, so you're backing up not just the data, but the entire system configuration of that server, and then backing it up to a local BDR appliance supplied by eFolder and deployed by SNC Squared into the customer premises. Now, there's very rich configuration options in terms of the frequency of snapshotting of those servers and the frequency of backing up to the cloud. And so what many partners do is they, at least once a day, will then back up those images to the eFolder storage cloud. And then if a disaster occurs, if there's a local disaster, or if there's just an everyday disaster, then you're able to provide a very high service level agreement to your clients where you can say, look, I can recover your servers in minutes or hours, but not days. Where we're talking, you can really make a firm commitment to your clients that you can have them back up and running and have their production servers either running on this BDR appliance at the client location, or if there's some massive problem at this location, either because of a natural disaster or loss of connectivity, you have the images stored in the eFolder storage cloud. And then you can either recover them, you can either download the images from the eFolder storage cloud, or have the images shipped on an expedited basis on disks from eFolder to you for recovery in a DR location, say in your own data center at your own location. Or alternatively, the newest capability, which eFolder is introducing this month on a production basis, is you can also recover those servers in the eFolder Continuity Cloud, which allows you to spin up a on-demand compute node in eFolder's cloud, which allows you to run those servers in a virtualized environment in eFolder's data centers on an emergency as-needed only basis. So that's really what eFolder BDR is all about. It combines powerful software from StorageCraft plus an eFolder BDR appliance plus the power of our cloud infrastructure for a complete solution that allows you to take that to your clients and provide them true disaster recovery and business continuity. If you're curious about how it's priced, the BDR appliances themselves run anywhere from $1,600 to $7,000. We do have a a short-term surcharge in place due to the shortage of hard drives due to the Thailand flooding, which increased these prices anywhere from about or on average around $300. So the components are you have the BDR appliance, and then the way most partners source the solution from eFolder is it's $20 per server per month for the StorageCraft software. And then the actual BDR service itself is $40 per month wholesale per appliance, and that includes 150 gigabytes of offsite cloud storage in the eFolder storage cloud. And then if you have clients that go over the 150 gigabytes, then the prices range anywhere from 30 cents to 20 cents a gig based on your total volume with eFolder. So that's just a couple comments on the BDR solution that a company like SNC Squared uses to provide a really robust business continuity offering to your clients. So with that, let's turn it back over to John and answer more questions. So, John, a couple questions have come in asking you to dig in a little deeper on the technical process of testing your backups. If you do it daily, how are you doing it daily? What software resources are you using to do that? And who in your staff is on point to do that? Can you talk a little bit more about that process?
Sure, absolutely. So I have the function of one of my engineers is to basically remote each BDR and actually make sure that the backups are actually happening, which means do I have a current image of when was the last one, and is it current? And then on a weekly/monthly basis, we actually click on the last image and actually bring it up to see does this image mount? Does this server boot? Can I actually boot the image? So approximately 20 to 25 hours a week of one of my engineers' time is strictly dedicated to this. But since I don't put all my eggs in one basket, I then have another engineer check him periodically throughout the month to make sure that he's not sleeping on the job, things are still happening the way they're supposed to be. Because a lot of people say we were lucky. We were lucky we had the tornado. We were lucky. All of this stuff happened because we were lucky. And I say, we were lucky because we were prepared and we actually had the opportunity to show what we did. So I don't believe necessarily in luck, but I believe we had our stuff in a row. So we check it every day. Yes, it does cost money for me to do this, but when we have a disaster as we did, we don't have any issues.
Right, and you're able to, this is an investment of labor in making sure everything is, you can keep your promises, and by keeping your promises, you're able to charge really attractive, high monthly recurring revenue to all of these accounts under your managed service offering, which is extremely profitable.
Correct. It's interesting. We talk to some clients, new clients especially, that they want to make the discussion be about money. You're charging me this many dollars a month to back up my server. This is too high. I can get it somewhere else cheaper. I can do this somewhere else. And my job as the CEO of the company and their future CIO is to tell them, okay, yes, can you get this cheaper? Yes, but you can't get what I do cheaper. We are the best in the market. We're the best at what we do. When we say we check everything 100%, that doesn't mean I'm going to just make sure I got a green light and it's green. What we find out many times is some of that stuff doesn't necessarily mean it's current. It just means it's working. It just might be a little bit behind. Then additionally, we try to find out what is our vulnerability window, which means, okay, I'm doing all these backups, but what happens if that image that's going off-site is a month behind and they have a disaster today and it destroys their servers and their BDRs? What is your window of vulnerability? And that's another thing we actually look at, and that's very, very important, is if something is gone today, what is your worst threshold? And we actually try to provide that on a per customer basis. These guys are 2 days out. This guy's one day out. This guy is caught up. That is important for you to know that, because when you have some sort of disaster, then you can report on it. Jared, one of my techs, actually does this. His goal and his job is to say, this client's windows of opportunity is getting a little too long, and what we need to do is some sort of an offsite transfer to get him caught up again. Or, that's the decisions we have in place and the processes we have in place to ensure these things are happening all the time and that they're not getting missed.
Yeah, so a couple just really practical questions. A couple people asked about the visuals and the slides we're using in today's presentation. We will be forwarding a copy of the PowerPoint out to everybody who attended today, so you will have raw native PowerPoint access to all the images and visuals and the story we're telling here. So a question from Trevor, does eFolder support a custom-built BDR? Like, say, I just want to build my own BDR with Shadow Protect, but want to use eFolder cloud storage and virtual in the cloud if needed. And the answer to that is yes, Trevor. There's a couple different things that our partners are doing there. So we have an offering where, some clients that are very small and may only have one server, may not have rapid on-site recovery need, or their recovery time objectives might be longer than a business that is more demanding. So, and that's perfectly acceptable. And so what some partners do is they, instead of putting a BDR appliance in there, they will provision local storage or a NAS device to store those Shadow Protect images from that server, and then you're able to install the eFolder software on that server and back up the images to the eFolder storage cloud. So you lose the component of being able to use the BDR appliance as a local storage server and as a virtualization point for those servers, but you get all the best of the software and the backup to the cloud and the ability to recover in the cloud in case of a disaster. The other way is what we call build your own BDR. If you have, say, a relationship with Dell, for instance, and you want to be using Dell hardware, Dell servers, because that's your preferred brand, we have a cookbook, if you will, or an application note which goes through how to actually leverage all the software assets that come with the solution and put them on your own version of a server. And you get all the same benefits, versus using an eFolder BDR appliance. Now, that being said, let me just quickly advance here. If you are an existing eFolder partner, or if you're considering becoming an eFolder partner, I strongly encourage you to take us up on our offer. Any eFolder partner or company thinking about partnering with eFolder, you can do a free trial of our BDR solution. So, there's a couple pages of paperwork, and all we ask you to do is commit to returning the appliance if you decide it's not right for you. But it's totally free. There's no charge. We don't ask for a credit card. We don't ask for any money up front. All you need to do, if you're considering joining eFolder, is go to eFolder.net/join. If you want to engage with one of our sales representatives to talk about joining eFolder, or if you're an existing partner, talk to your account manager and ask them for a BDR trial. So Trevor, hopefully that answers your question about some of the different deployment scenarios for BDR. Let's see here. Other questions? We have a couple more minutes. So just want to make sure Butch, you asked about, with StorageCraft in the software solution, and John, that's true, right? I mean, you're using eFolder BDR with Shadow Protect, correct?
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Okay. Let's see here, kind of a final question. I mean, John, Ashley asks, who are the best types of vendor partners for you, and what are you looking for in a vendor relationship?
Well, I consider a vendor relationship, I'm there peddling their stuff. I want them to understand that, and we don't all start selling, $1 or $2, $3 million a year. We all start small. And I'm looking for vendors that actually really want to invest in me, because I want to look at them and say, hey, I'm coming to you. I want to sell your product. I think you got a good product. How can you help me? I want them to be engaged with me just as well as I'm engaged with them. I try to avoid vendors that are extremely large. To you, you're just another number, or you're just another, somebody. And that's what I really look. And my whole purpose is, do you know who your salespeople are? Do you know who you talk to? Do you know what they are doing for you? What is available? And are you taking advantage of that? A lot of people are sitting out there and say, hey, my vendor doesn't do anything for me. But you have to engage in them. This is an engagement. This is like a relationship. It's like a marriage. It's a husband and wife thing. You have to give them before they give to you. You just can't go in there and expect that. A lot of the tools are there. You got to join. You have to join the groups. You have to actually join the vendors and get on them and actually see them and then fully engage in what they do. So eFolder is one of our vendors. They went above and beyond during the tornado. I found their solutions to work very, very well for us. They have always been responsive when I know who my salespeople are, and I know when I make a phone call that stuff just happens because I've called. But we take the time to actually engage with them. We take the time to actually discuss them. We see them at shows, and that's our whole purpose on it. Now, a lot of different vendors, obviously ConnectWise is another one of our vendors. So even though we don't necessarily sell anything, that's how we actually run our systems. Robbins, phenomenal. She's not necessarily a vendor, but we treat her absolutely wonderful because those are the people that are involved in you, and it's just a matter of you taking the extra step to engage back with them and ask for help.
Okay. Well, with that, I want to be respectful to John's time and everyone else's time. It's right now at the top of the hour, and our goal is usually to end on time here. So thank you very much to John for sharing his experience and everything he learned and how he's growing his business through driving business continuity and disaster recovery solutions to his client and partnering with eFolder. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today on the webinar. Hopefully you learned a thing or two and can make use of this in your business day to day. Thank you very much, and this concludes our webinar today. Thank you.